So welcome everyone. My name is Steph Daly. I'm the Global Competition Coordinator for CSAW. So thanks so much for joining us. It's getting to be the afternoon here in Eastern Standard Time in New York City. And really appreciate your time and being with us here today. We've got a great talk coming up. I'm joined by John Clarke and Anthony Johnson. They're both part of the IBM X-Force team. John is based in Dublin, Ireland, so it's getting to be later evening there. We appreciate that. John and Tone is based in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. So yeah, thanks Tone for being here too. As I mentioned, they're both part of the IBM X-Force team, and IBM has been a long supporter of CSAW.
Start this off. My name is Anthony Johnson. I am an integration engineer, and I have been with IBM. John calls me Balrog. I call him Ryu or JC or John. Good fella. And my name is Anthony Johnson. Everybody on the team who knows me calls me Tone. I'm an integration engineer. I've been with IBM for a good amount of time. I've had an incredible journey to get to this position and work in my life. I'm responsible for finding, maintaining, and integrating, finding ways for different applications, components to work together in environments, in particular our gamified environments that my friend and partner John creates, and we work together to create the content for the gamification that our clients go through in our customer experiences. John, you want to kind of follow me up on that one?
Yeah, obviously, we took a bit of artistic license on the slides here, and we tried to gamify them a little bit. So we went for the Street Fighter vibe. So I'm John Clarke. I'm based in Ireland. My background, originally I was a web app pen tester for IBM, testing their products, and that kind of got me into this space of gamification. So currently, what we do is we build out solutions and scenarios for clients in a gamified way. So we would simulate real world attacks against systems. And like Tone said, he's the nuts and bolts guy. He can jam it all together. We'll create the ideas, and what we're going to do today is kind of talk to you a little bit about gamification, game-based learning, the differences, and how we utilize some of that in terms of training a workforce, heightening a cybersecurity awareness through the stories that we create. So I'm gonna move on to the next slide.
Let's do that, man. Let's do that. So we
want to start. The next slide is actually a video.
Yeah. So we got to sit back and kind of check this out and kind of get a feel for what it's about. There's a famous boxer, and we kind of use the saying in the range. Mike Tyson, if anybody's ever heard of him, and he has a saying that everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. What we believe and really try to implement and do within the X-Force Command Center and the Cyber Range, CTOC or X-Force comes to you, is we want to train, teach, educate, edutain you guys through gamification, and just like fighter pilots who, before they get in a plane, they go through simulations and they learn about circumstances, they learn situational awareness. And what we try to do is to coach, teach, and to help shape individuals and company security postures through the gamified experience. We have many different kinds of gamified experiences. And we're part of an incredible team of deeply talented and skilled individuals that help create the gamified elements and experiences that we bring to the customers.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself, actually. So I guess, yeah, so I guess what I'm trying to say as well is that we have this space, and it's basically an environment where you can fail and fail often, because you don't want the first time to fail is when you're in the real world. So we allow you to come in there and fail, and there's no judgment of any kind, because the expectation is that you are going to fail, because we're definitely not going to let you win when you come in. So you're up against it anyway. So I'm going to move to the next slide.
Yeah, please do. So
that's your turn.
Yeah, I'll take it from here. So one of the things is, you can't learn how to swim by watching YouTube videos. And, you really have to get in the water and kind of go through the motions and experiences. And that is why, the cyber, security laboratory was created. We want to call it, air quote time, guys, the best practices lab. And this is where, individuals and companies can safely uncover the gaps for your team when having to deal with cyber attack. Now, understand that we've had senators, Congress, three-letter agencies, all types of businesses you can imagine, from industries all across the map, every geo, every level of security maturity. And in the last year, honestly, we've seen over 1,500 customers. And with each visit, not only do the customers learn, but, we try to learn too. And it's why we started to think of the range as a lab. And we want to see it as a way to encourage and teach best practices and incorporate them back into the experiences that you might really see in real life.
Yeah, I think as well, because of COVID, actually the picture you see right there is the cyber range in Boston. And because of COVID, we did have to pivot a little bit and go virtual. And we've done that quite, I would say smoothly and swiftly. And so we do still provide our services to our clients, even though we don't have the building and the room to put them in. I know the building and the room is really cool. The lab is the place where we allow you to fail, as I said, and fail often. I'm just going to slide to the next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit about games, and everybody knows what a game is. Like I play games myself. Currently in the middle of Days Gone. I think I'm on day 1,000. Struggling a little bit, but you talk about Call of Duty, Fortnite,
World of Warcraft,
are the types
Diablo.
of games. Yeah, these are all the games that we understand. And what we do is we take pieces of those games, and I'm not saying that there's elements, and I'll go through them in a little bit, but we take elements of games and we utilize them in our scenarios. You then have your game-based learning, and that's where you're taking a game and using it to teach a discrete skill or something, a specific learning outcome. And it's designed like to balance the subject matter with gameplay and the ability of the person who's playing the game to retain the skill and then apply that skill in a real world scenario. So there is a few examples, and I know you guys have major supermarkets over there, Target and stuff.
Yeah, we do.
There is a Tesco. There's a Tesco, which is a UK and Ireland supermarket, and they have a compliance board game. And what they use that for is that the aim of that game is you move around the board and you complete specific challenges. The aim of the board of the game is to make fire safety training more interesting, and you develop knowledge and skills for handling fire safety issues. There's another example of Siemens. They have a tool called Plantville, and you're the manager. You take control of the plant. You do the hiring, you do the firing, you do the deployment of workers, the worker safety, satisfaction, and you possibly through that game show the ability to improve processes by utilizing Siemens equipment on the factory floor. And I think game-based learning, or GBL, as it's going to be kind of shortened to, it should be utilized more, and probably the go-to choice personally for me for the remote learning during our current climate or situation that we're in at the moment, because it's very difficult to engage a student I know previously being one, and not that long ago, to sit in a room and become engaged when there's a lot of text in front of you, was very difficult. So the engagement and the vibe that game-based learning gives is really good, and I think it's definitely something that should be utilized across the board everywhere, and it is. As we go into the next slide, we'll see. So there's everyday gamification, and it's used, and game-based learning, and it's used all through our lives. It's used in sciences, and one of the really nice ones that I like in sciences is there's a puzzle called Folded, and what it does is it allows you to, don't know much about proteins, but proteins are folded in a specific way. And what this tool does is allows you to play a game where you fold proteins to combat diseases and cure the disease. Diseases like HIV/AIDS, cancer, Alzheimer's. Basically what they're doing is they're collecting the data of the humans who play the game, and they're looking for a pattern recognition and their puzzle solving abilities. And they're going to use them to make their existing computer programs better and more efficient at pattern folding tasks, because they feel like the humans can figure it out a little bit better, and then they'll apply that logic into the computer. And if that turns out to be true, then you can basically teach human abilities and strategies to computers that can fold the proteins faster and therefore find cures for diseases quicker. If we look at, I know there's some really edgy ones up there. Shopping, we collect coupons. That's gamification. If we go into travel, airline miles, getting a bump up in class. If you go into health, you've got your Fitbit. That's gamification based. If you go into education, we see a lot
totally
of
game based.
Yeah,
a lot of schools and elementary schools. Yeah. A lot of times in applied learning, for my grandson, for example, he plays this online game which teaches him algebra and math. And the benefit and the strength of gamification, or GBL, is, as an athlete, a lot of times you're teach the term situational awareness, and that's learning what to do in specific situations at certain times, and that creates what they call muscle memory. And what we want to do, and what one of our major goals is to create the muscle memory for individuals, corporations, and entities to have that muscle memory. So when a cyber attack does occur, they don't have to think about what they have to do, because they already know the steps and the procedures of what they have to do when the situation happens. They are prepared in their communication. They are prepared in all the different aspects and entities of their companies to talk to each other, to make their critical decisions, and to react when a cyber attack occurs. And so we use GBL to really shape and mold the educational foundation to teach people.
So like if you look at the Khan Academy, for instance, and that's another prime example of online education using gamification. Right. There's a lot of training platforms out there that do it. There's the enterprise incentive management systems, and that they're used in organizations to motivate the employees, basically. And then, even in the US, like you get a high GPA, that's, you're competing to get that score. There's a little bit of a gamified scenario in there, where you're doing your best to get the top score. It's kind of a thread all throughout society, basically.
It's quietly implemented in the very thread of what we do and how we do it. I mean, truth be told, life is competitive. When you're in middle school, or even when you're a kid and you join your first football team over where you are in Ireland, or we call it here our first soccer team or baseball team or what have you, you're competing for a spot. And with the competition and the practice creates the learning. And with the learning, again, it all goes back to, you think you play better when you don't have to think, because when you think and you're in the middle of a situation, you're slower, versus you see the field and you know what to do.
And then I guess I left Black Mirror until the end, because there's an episode of Black Mirror. I don't know if anybody's seen it. I think it's called Nosedive.
Yeah, Nosedive.
Yeah, it's got Bryce Dallas in it, and that's basically based on likes and faves, and that kind of gamification piece of, you're basically rating your neighbor, or your friend, or your colleague, and you think like Facebook and the tactics that they use to keep you logging in all the time.
Sure.
But this is being applied into the real world, where I think in last year and sometime this year, I'm not sure if it's been rolled out, but China had built this rating system for the citizens called the social credit system, where you get points for good behavior based off if you're making your payments on time, if you're paying your bills, if you get good educational attainment. So if you get a degree, you might get some more bonus points. So they've implemented that into the everyday life. There is a little bit of a criticism on gamification of the modern day everyday use of gamification, where you exclude certain elements like storytelling and experiences and using a simple reward-based system in place of a true kind of gaming mechanics. And games specifically used in marketing, I think they call them exploitationware, so there is definitely some ethical pieces around it, and true gamification experts would definitely hold that kind of view to their hearts. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, yeah. So
talk about CTF, capture the flag.
Yeah. So I see CSAW have a CTF. I see it's been running for a long time. I personally myself have been involved in CTFs for a long time here in Ireland. I've provided CTFs on site externally from IBM. And also we've built an internal IBM capture the flag framework. Ours is based off world domination. So basically it's an event where you compromise a system, a server, through a specific vulnerability. And once you compromise that server, you use a piece of software or a program that we've built. We call it the Phantom. And once you run the Phantom, it reports back to the scoreboard server telling you that you've compromised a system. And you can see on the world map here, basically, that when you compromise a server, each server maps back to a country. And basically, the country lights up with your team name and your team color. We built this specifically for professionals and students. It's a great place for you to network. All CTFs are great places to network, because you will get people from industry coming in to play the game against you. What we've seen specifically in Ireland is, and also in the US when we provided some, was that companies would be interested to speak to the people playing on the floor. They would come in and they would talk to them. It's basically a live hiring environment. You can interview people on the floor. You can get a technical view of what they're doing. You can get a kind of a social view, how they are personally.
Get a business view. There's many angles that you can get, and you can see that, how gamification kind of threads and weaves to the different aspects of business, how they run, technically, businessly, communication wise, and how, it really can shape your response to different situations and stuff going on.
Yeah, and as somebody hiring, like, where else could you get that kind of environment? Where if you're hiring for a red teamer, put them in there. Don't bring them in and ask them the questions. Put them in the live environment. See exactly. How he works. See how he works amongst the team. See how he works individually. How do they delegate tasks? Perfect environment for it. As I said, it's vulnerable systems. It's forensics. It's trivia. And we implement a whole bunch of security tools, and they can monitor the system. So therefore you can pivot. If you wanted to pivot this to become a red v blue scenario, you got a blue team monitoring the tools, and you got the red team attacking, and you can flip it around. And actually one of the nice pieces that we built into this was we built in nuclear functionality. So basically you have a button where you can nuke, you can do a nuclear strike against another team. You only get a couple during the game when you use them wisely. So if you see a team that's really taken off, what happens is you nuke their servers, and basically the servers they return them back to a previous state, which is a snapshot of them before they were compromised, and then they're available again for everybody to attack. It's a bit controversial. Some people like it, some people don't. Yes, so this is actually another part of our CTF, and this is Hadley's Hope. For anybody that knows Aliens, Hadley's Hope is the Outpost. This is actually really interesting for students, because what you see there in front of you was built by students. It's all IoT powered. It's got Arduinos and Raspberry Pis. It's got a whole pile of electronics running underneath it. It needed a web developer because it was run by a touchscreen. 3D modeling, all that stuff you see there is 3D printed and modeled. It's got a Hornby train track, and all the services that are connected to each one of these is vulnerable and is hackable. The reason this was built was we see a lot of clients come in, and there's a whole like, how do I know it's being hacked? Because it's not really visual. And so we would let them take control of the the city and the touch screen, and if the gate opened, or if the comms went off, or if the lights went down, or if the train stopped moving, or somebody sped it up and ran it off the track and they didn't touch the button, therefore we could show them that kinetic kind of response, the cause and effect of an attack happening. And this was built by students on the Extreme Blue program, which is an IBM program. It's an internship for students, and you basically come in, and I like to call it the inception of the A team. So you basically get, you've just showing my age now, but you basically get your team together, and it's not just, like I said, it's engineering, electrical development, cybersecurity, computer science, mechanical engineering, business students, and you basically do a full life cycle of an idea that you come through. And sometimes they come through to fruition, and that you could have a viable product, and something that you could patent and become your own, and just become a product and works for clients. It's a great way for collaboration, innovation, and specifically for students with eminence. You can present to your key stakeholders and IBM leaders, and it's a great way to learn, excel, and innovate, and you become a leader in your own right.
It's definitely a great way to see how, potential candidates that want to come into IBM or just come into the workforce, you really get to see from the ground up how they work, how they communicate, what the work style's like, if they blend into something, particularly with the collaboration and innovation and growth. And it's, from the work that I've seen that they deliver, it's just really, truly outstanding. And it's an awesome program if anybody was really interested in it.
Oh, I just see a question from
let's hit that one.
Just he wants of how
current protocol of how gamification handles an attack in real time, and how do clients deal with it? Like with an example, that makes me think of cyber war game. You want to talk about cyber war game?
Yeah, well, we're gonna move on. I will answer that question, and we'll answer how we do some simulations, and also how we simulate a malware attack, for instance, or a ransomware or anything like that going on into the environment. Actually, I think the next slide is the Operate Escape. You want to take this on?
Yeah. I'll talk about now. One of our staple, one of the first customer experiences that we created was. This Operate Escape. Operate Escape, I was getting that mixed up with Aux Response. Operate Escape was one of our first early offering and experiences that we offered to customers and businesses, where we wanted to show them what it was from the mind of a hacker, and how they could exfiltrate and access certain websites, maybe doing DDoS attack, how easily it was to exploit passwords using hashes, and basically kind of giving a well-rounded example on how the weakest link in any security policy is the user, and how, regardless of the protocols and stuff that you have set up, if the user is compromised within themselves, if they use weak passwords, if they use their birth date, if they use their address, if they use their dog's name, and how we can find the reconnaissance for that information, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on LinkedIn, how that information can be used against them in a real world example of going into some fictional website that we created, and how that information can be used against customers. It was really cool.
It's basically a tools, techniques, and processes of an attacker, and this is an ever evolving offering. It will change, and you basically get hands-on keyboards with some of the tools, and you use like a pineapple to attack Wi-Fi. You can show SQL injections and different ways, social engineering, OSINT. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we show to clients, and it's just basically, as you said, putting them in the seat of an attacker.
Aux Response, I'll get this one. Now, Aux Response was initially our first customer experience, and the motto of this one, this was more, not so much technical. This was more on the business side, and the name of the game for this customer experience, as you can see in the slide, was keep your company name out of the press. And so with that, there are various exercises and things you do, and there are multi-teams that you have to work with internally and externally. And this is basically about us using the GBL to measure a company's security posture, and how they could, should, and would react in the face of a cyber attack. it's one of our most popular programs, and we still run it to this day. It's pretty cool. We've been a part of
Yeah.
it. Yeah, you
It's
want to talk
it's
about
pretty
it?
cool. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. It's basically, as Tom said, the business side, so your C-level, and how they deal with you've been attacked. How do you deal with the response?
Yep, yep.
How do you come out of this smelling like roses, shall we say? Or maybe, do you be honest with your customers, and we'll see, there's been a lot of attacks recently. Probably one of the benchmarks would be Norsk Hydra, where they were quite transparent in what happened, and they got recommendation for it, because that's the way you should be. You should never hide anything from your customers, because transparency is what it's all about. And if you aren't too transparent, you will be found out eventually further down the line. And there is some companies that have been in the news, so we're not doing the rogues gallery, but they have been found out, and they lose shares. They could lose money off their company. You lose clients, you lose customers, and that's what happens if you're not transparent. I'm going to move into and this is the next slide will be the technical side of the Aux Response. So basically, you talk about the business side dealing with what's happened. What we do here is, it's a cyber war game. It's basically a simulation of an attack, or attack has happened in your environment, and we provide you with the tools, and you've got to go and figure out the IOCs and the who, what, where, when, and why. Basically, who attacked us, where did it happen, why did they attack us, what's the reasoning behind it? Are they a hacker group? Is it an insider threat? And I like to call it the cyber Cluedo, but it's also the cyber fire drill. It's
most definitely.
As Tom said, it's about training that muscle memory. And like in any event, if you're doing fire training, you need to know where the exits are. You need to know how to get out of that building if it is on fire. And that's basically what this is. It's a technical team training, and it's kind of, if you go back to Cyber War Game, it's kind of based around the movie with David Lightman. I don't know if anyone's seen War Game, where he hacks into the military supercomputer.
Shall we play a game?
Yeah, and he basically nearly starts World War III, basically. But this is this is a technical team training. So you've got your SIEM analysts, your EDR specialists, your incident responders, your CSAW managers. You get a full business response, and you got your legal, your comms, because response in a cyber breach is not just down to IT. It's down to
most definitely
finance, risk, compliance, privacy. Everybody's involved. And what we do is we're trying to demonstrate to teams how they should work in unison, basically, during an event. Because you will find that a lot of the time the problems arise around communication between teams.
Yeah, and a lot of times is, not only do we want to show you how, which parts, that all parts of a business are affected in response to a cyber attack, but we want other teams to understand what the other team's roles and responsibilities are in the face of a cyber attack. Also, just to kind of caveat with Cyber War Game, John, wouldn't you say this is more of a blue team exercise more than a red team exercise?
Yeah, definitely, because the red team is the red.
Let's make that description between blue and red. This is more, Cyber War Game is really a blue team. Again, we give you all the tools that you need to kind of sniff, find, and respond in the face of a cyber attack. This is the more technical offering, where, when we're talking about Aux Response and all that is more of a business offering holistically, and this one here specifically is, the more hands-on technical training portion of it. And then capture the flag is just blue and red going at each other, and you stop me from getting at you, I stop you from getting on me, and then there's points and stuff associated with each.
I think with CTF, it's like you're pivoting between the two. You get a system, you've got to protect it now. You've got to protect that system from the other teams that are going to try and compromise it. Normally in CTFs, you have a flag, you get the flag, and then that's it. But in our one, you have to hold on to the server, so you need to know how to shut down services, not lock yourself out with IP tables and certain things like that. So you got to have a little bit of Linux knowledge on how to work your way around the box.
Most definitely. All right, this one of the offerings that we saw throughout the year was we created a program called X-Force Come to You. And for a lot of times when customers couldn't come into the range and have the full range experience of everything, we created an experience using the technology with iPads and custom applications, working with developers and engineers on our own team to basically I pack up 36 iPads and two giant cases, and I've traveled around the world, and we set these up with giant screen TVs, and basically we bring the experience of the range to you in your location. So everything, as much as we could produce in the range, that we bring that to you, and with firsthand experiences and custom applications that you interface and work on with the iPads. And it's shown to be, before the pandemic happened, a very popular offering, and customers really liked the fact that they could interface and have something with right in front of them in their location. We use telephony technologies where the iPads were making phone calls back and forth in remote locations. We've also had it where we've used the iPads, and we had another offering within remote locations where they were calling each other, and it was from the iPads to the range to another remote location, and it was really working well.
So the next slide is Terminal, and that's something that we recently released. The URL is actually on the slide there. You can take it down and you can go play it. It's a web-based game, and it's pretty fun. It's built to drive a security message. Mm-hmm. So if anybody's technical getting on and going, that's not right, that's not what it's about. It's about driving a message about protecting your environments from specific types of attacks. And the object of the game is to protect the airport from a cyber attack and basically prevent disruption of operations. It's pretty intuitive, really engaging, and it's fun. And I would urge anybody to kind of go out and have a go of it. There seems to be a lot of now games that are coming out because obviously people are seeing the value of gamification in this space and how to drive a message home and how to engage people, and basically how to teach people about certain issues. Slide.
Please.
Oh, we got another video. Hopefully, we
you want me kind of what? Yeah, we'll just let the video.
When we think of cybersecurity, we're already in a situation where hundreds of billions of pounds a year are gleaned from the bad guys and breaking into our infrastructure and stealing our intellectual property.
I would like to note that this
is one of the largest societal issues of our time. The reality is that the response to the breach often causes more damage than the breach itself. If we think about a large-scale incident of any type, right, what do you normally have in the field? Fire, police, EMS, other types of first responders. Well, cyber is now part of that environment as well. The IBM CSAW, or Cyber Tactical Operations Center, is a full-scale cybersecurity watch floor on the back of an 18-wheeler tractor-trailer truck. It's highly mobile. When it gets on site, it expands out to make this entire watch floor. It's 23 tons of cybersecurity preparedness. It's self-powered. It connects via its own sterile internet, whether that's from 4 cellular towers or 2 satellite dishes we can deploy on the roof. So there are 3 primary purposes of the Mobile Cyber Tactical Operations Center. The first is to prepare executives for their worst day in responding to a cybersecurity incident. The second purpose is education and awareness. Today there's a 2 million person gap in skills for open jobs in cybersecurity. And the third purpose of this truck is to actually provide on-site assistance at large-scale events where we need a cybersecurity operations center in field.
I'm going to pause that there, Tom. Is that okay?
Yeah, totally. Totally fine, man.
So basically, you want to go a little bit more in depth onto the truck?
So the CTOC, as we like to call it, is the world's first mobile tactical operations center. Basically, it's the SOC on wheels. It was debuted, I think it's 2022 years ago. It took us 8 months to build. and it was a handful of different engineers and a lot of trips to the Midwest. I remember going to Iowa and Minnesota, and I remember my manager Nat and my lead Matt Dobbs, the architect, made many trips, and a lot of us put in a lot of long hours. And when it was debuted in New York and Brooklyn in October of, I want to say 2018, I believe, it there was nothing like it ever out. And it has commercial data center on the back of it. It expands so that we can give customers the feel of being in a SOC wherever they are. And basically what we did after we built it, it drove around the country here in the United States, and then we put it on a boat. We shipped it over to Europe, and then now it currently resides and lives in the UK, and it tours all over Europe, and where we can bring the message of gamification to people through the experience on the CSAW, the truck that you see right there.
Yeah, pretty cool. And unfortunately with COVID, it's not going anywhere right now, but hopefully one day soon we'll see it again on the street.
Sometime next year, most definitely, from what I understand.
I think the next slide is some of the technologies that we use in the range, and I think this is going to answer the gamification question, how it handles attack. So we are currently using what we use is a tool called Cloud Shell to spin up our sandboxes, and basically what that does is it spins up multiple VMs and environments that we create. We can have a finite number of environments, and we will build the story inside that environment, and then we'll spin it up. We also have a tool called SafeBreach, and SafeBreach is an attack simulator. And what SafeBreach can do is it can inject into VMs and simulate ransomware, malware, and basically our tools will be tuned, or maybe not tuned. Maybe we're trying to test the client on the fact that do they know how to tune a tool, or train them how to tune a tool? Can they find a specific IOC and tune that SIEM tool to flag and create an offense based off a specific IOC? And SafeBreach allows us to inject a malware, ransomware, C2 traffic, whatever it may be, into an environment, and we obviously tune our tools to find them. And then Node.js is one of the technologies. Our CTF framework is built on Node.js. Everybody knows about Kali Linux. Resilient is our SOAR platform. And basically it's a security orchestration, automation, and response tool. And basically it's a ticketing system for when you are in the middle of a breach, and how you track your response, and how you figure out what you're doing along your response. Obviously, QRadar is our SIEM tool, and IBM i2 is basically a visual analysis tool that helps turn data basically into intelligence. You can connect network visualization, social network analysis, geospatial and temporal views to help you uncover like the hidden connections and patterns in specific types of data. And this then allows you to have a better insight into identifying and disrupting kind of criminal and cyber and fraudulent threats in your environment. I think I covered them all there, did I?
Yeah, you're good. I just think the reason why we wanted to post this slide for technology is, I think the point is really to stress that there's so many different parts and technologies that work together. It's just not one single piece of software that creates the gamification experience. There are many pieces that house the gamification experience, that enable the communication from different parts of the gamification, whether it's Linux, SafeBreach, the networking with Cisco, and with each of these different technologies, there are different skill sets and different jobs and different roles that each, different engineers can have, within each of these different technologies.
Yeah, I would urge anyone that wants to get into this space to kind of look up some of the organizations like OWASP and SANS. They plan, and you guys are already involved in CTFs.
Most definitely.
Using those skills, people. I've worked on a team where a guy joined my team, and he had a background. He was a cabinet maker. He made furniture. But it's the mindset that he had which allowed him to have transferable skills into a specific role. And it's not about having all of the technical ability as well. You need to have the soft skills that go along with it. And I think if you want to get into AppSec, I was involved in building some content for a tool called OWASP Security Shepherd. which is a platform that you can use it for a CTF platform. It's open source. You can use it for a training platform. It can flip between both, and it's really cool, and it teaches you all about the OWASP top 10. So yeah,
game over.
Game over.
Game over. I see some questions we got here. Let me shout off one of the questions. The first one that I see is from an anonymous attendee. He says, can this be likened to a tabletop experience that simulates an attack? Imagine we have a tabletop exercise as a part of our cyber aware program. Will you say this will help us simulate close to a real life attack? I would say, depending on the scale of what the attack is, most definitely. And that goes back to what we were saying before about creating muscle memory and preparedness and situational awareness. Because if you go through these attacks when there are no real consequences, you know, and you'll be so much ready and prepared for the time when an attack comes and there are real consequences that happen. The second question is, and I'll give you this one, John. How does the Cybertruck provide an advantage to tackle breach events over someone using the internet, maybe with a VPN, to gain access to attack?
I think over the internet. So basically, if your truck turns up, you can plug the truck into your environment and tune it in. So if an attack is coming over the internet into your environment, it can do anything. It's like basically, once it's connected into your environment, it's like having your SOC room inside the building. It's just that it's outside in a truck. I think it's very difficult to attack on someone over the internet using a VPN, but like that's where most people gain access, or unless it's an insider threat. But like I said, it's like a SOC. But once you plug that into your environment and tune it to monitor your systems, then that's how the truck provides an advantage. It wouldn't provide an advantage in terms of it's the same as a SOC, but just that it's on wheels and it's mobile. Yeah. You know, and you could see it being used at big events where, you know, they need monitoring concerts. You know, you go to Vegas. I've been to Vegas. DEF CON have a really cool kind of SOC room that they stand up every year to monitor all the phone traffic and the web traffic and everything. And the truck is just something that you could roll into town, plug in, and basically tune it to monitor the environments.
As one of our teammates, Jordan Wheeler, he definitely said some organizations need additional support and want them on site. So that's the advantage of having the CTOC, where we can bring a security operations center that's mobile on site, plug into company's network, and then do our due diligence to help secure and watch the ingress and egress traffic that's going on, with whatever the event is. So yeah.
Do you have any more questions?
And that's my phone ringing in the background. So
yeah, it's time.
Is this part of the simulation?
I was like, I will call you, Tone, when we're gonna.
There's my phone ringing.
Yeah, guys, thank you both so much. This was awesome.
Right on.
And but yeah, really, John Clarke, Tone Johnson, thank you both so much for your time.
Thank you.
Good advice, good resources, good tools. Yeah, this is very, very cool. We really appreciate it. Again, thank you so much to IBM Security.
I say something that if anybody wants to reach out, any of the students, and they have a question, they can find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, me too.
They can find me on Twitter at Spoclet, SPOCLATE. If they have any questions that they didn't want to ask within the chat, it's fine.
Yeah, mine's at Odyssey at AUDESSEY.
Okay. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having us. Thank you, Steph. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.